Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Aesthetic Impact Informational Services presentation of Dr. Angela Thompson-Smith, Out-of-Body Experiences. We're very fortunate to have Angela with us this evening, her expertise and knowledge. And just a quick overview, Dr. Smith's primary qualifications were in nursing and social work. She was a registered nurse and a social worker. Served with a VSO working abroad in a Colombian orphanage, returning to England. She has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and a Master's at the Faculty of Medicine in Manchester University, England, Ph.D. in Psychology from San Francisco. Dr. Smith continued her education at UNLV, and she has a certificate in nonprofit management. She has experienced a wide body of research and management. Worked as a research analyst at the University of Medicine and Dentistry in New Jersey, and with Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab in New Jersey. She was executive director of Boulder City Senior Center, has worked extensively as a private contractor for individuals, businesses, and organizations. She is an author, published Remote Perceptions with Hampton Roads Publishing Company, and her new book, Shire, was published in Publish America, fall of 2006. Her historical novel, River of Passion, was published by the same group in 2007. Dr. Smith was ordained as a shamanic minister following decades of training and experience, and works as a life coach and shamanic practitioner in Boulder City, Nevada. Just to remind everyone that we will be touching on quite a bit of psychology with these presentations, and that aesthetic impact is not a substitute for medical treatment by your practitioner. If you think you have a medical condition, please contact your practitioner. And then a quick introduction, because we are running a little late here due to some technical difficulties. But Angela will be talking a bit about the fact that OBEs are not new news. They may be to some folks who have not studied them or heard much about them. There's some overlapping gray areas, such as bilocation, perfect site integration with controlled remote viewing or remote viewing. And there are many documented instances of saints being in two places at once. And so while OBEs are different than that, until we have a common reporting language, it's very difficult for anyone to describe these experiences and be on the same page. So without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this presentation over to Dr. Smith. And Angela, if you would activate your camera for us so we can, there you are. Hello.
Hello, back again.
Oh, you sound so much better this time. For our listening audience, I'm sorry we've tried to do this twice, and thank you everyone for putting up with our struggles. So, go ahead, Angela.
Thank you. I'm going to switch over to PowerPoint presentation and go through this fairly quickly because there's quite a few slides, and talk about I've had out-of-body experiences since I was a child, and really didn't know what they were until my 20s when I started doing some personal exploration and some experimentation, and wrote about them in Remote Perceptions, Out-of-Body Experiences, Remote Viewing, and Other Normal Abilities. So I think of out-of-body experiences as quite normal, that many people have them. They're not well understood, and there's still a lot of research that needs to be done in OBEs. They're different from astral travel in that astral travel is more of a metaphysical type of experience. OBEs can be carried out in the here and now, past, present, and future. Many people can have OBEs at will, but it's not a well-known or well-experienced ability. You don't hear about it. People don't talk about it in normal, polite society. So, I'm hoping I'll bust some of the myths this evening. And one of the things that's hotly debated is, where is the body and the mind during the out-of-body state? Is the mind within itself, within the brain, experiencing something within the brain, or can the mind actually travel to a location I'm of the opinion, having had many OBEs during my lifetime, that the mind can travel, it can become non-local. There are two states of mind, monist and dualist. One states that the body and mind are the same, and another one states that the mind can separate from the body. I think that both are correct. Sometimes we're in a monist state, sometimes in a dualist state. So sometimes when we're very, very focused, we can be in a monist state. The body and mind can be very connected. And sometimes when we're out of body, perhaps doing remote viewing or some other non-local work, we can be in a dualist state. There are some differences, again, between astral travel and OBEs. Mainly, the Theosophist movement in the 18th century were very involved with OBEs, trying to understand them. They developed the concept of the silver cord. Not everybody sees that. I have never seen a silver cord connecting my out-of-body state body to my physical body. OBE definitions, Susan Blackmore, my hometown in Bristol in England, says an OBE is an experience in which a person seems to perceive the world from a location outside their physical body. In this state, they can see and hear events and conversations that cannot be perceived from their actual physical location. And that's as simple as it gets. It doesn't necessarily mean OBE, having an OBE lying in bed, floating up near the ceiling, seeing a silver cord, then jumping back into the body, although a lot of people do have that kind of experience. But an OBE is any experience in which you seem to perceive the world from a location outside of the physical body. Lots of other definitions. I'm not going to go into all of them here. It depends on who you talk to, at what time, as to what it's called, what OBEs are called. For example, if you talk to the medical profession, they talk about bilocation, about cataleptic state dissociation. And from my experience, those are not valid terms because the person in the OBE state can easily return quite quickly to a normal state of consciousness. And again, at the URBA conference recently, somebody begged the question, okay, if this is dissociation, dissociative state, what is the mind dissociating from? Is there a disconnect from the body and the mind? As Teresa had said, this is not a new phenomenon. OBEs can be linked back through the centuries, through every single cultural group down through the centuries. And here are some of the terms that have been used to describe the out-of-body experience. A few more. How many people have OBEs? It's believed that 1 in 20 individuals experience at least one, if not more, OBEs during their lifetime. And these are from surveys of regular folks. And about 1% of the population have multiple OBEs during their lifetime. And a small percentage actually go on to manage and understand OBEs and have them at will. It's believed that many people have OBEs during sleep, that dream flying and traveling while dreaming are OBEs. Best to try and, for your own verification, if you feel you have an OBE during sleep, try and verify what it is that you perceive. Only then can you understand if it's something that you have, something that you can understand of your own abilities. Fear often prevents OBEs. There's some people who have one and are so afraid of it that they don't try another one. Fears and OBEs again. When you have an OBE, you're in complete control of your OBE, and you can terminate it whenever you want. You won't be taken over by a malevolent entity during an OBE, and you won't die if someone wakes you during an OBE. The worst that can happen is that you'll fall into a state of sleep, and then you'll awaken normally. There's a novice effect or first-time effect. And this is very often some people say, well, I've had an OBE. When I tried it again, I either couldn't have one or I had an OBE, but it wasn't the same as the first time. There's something called the novice effect or first-time effect. And if you keep practicing, your success rate will recover. This is one of my favorite nuns, Mary the Blue Nun of Agreda, who felt that when she went out of body, she actually went to South America, where she was able to physically transport objects, sacred objects, a chalice and crosses. And then when one of the monks went out to South America as a missionary to the tribe that she had felt that she had visited, they found these sacred objects there. And they were able to bring them back to the nunnery and confirm that they really were objects that belonged to that location. So how she did it, it's put under the category of miracles, and she's one of my good examples. Many other people, Alphonsus Liguori, the Count Saint Germain, the Theosophists, all talked about various types of out-of-body experience and very practical abilities. Alphonsus Liguori, for example, saw houses burning. His house in a location that was burning, but the fire stopped before it got to his house. And he saw this from many, many miles away. Researchers, Muldoon and Carrington, these are some of the people in the remote viewing field who try to understand what OBEs are and how they could be carried out. So this is of interest to people who want to try and have an OBE themselves. What is it that people have actually found out about OBEs? So Muldoon and Carrington, the turn of the last century, they documented about 90 cases, most of them spontaneous, through hypnosis, through accident, illness, and also spontaneous projections, and found that they occurred under a variety of conditions. Some people under hypnosis were able to go out of body, but I actually tried that one time, and it was difficult to get out of body because my mind and body were too relaxed. And you have to have a relaxed body, but a very focused mind to go out of body. The term OBE or OBE, it's an old-fashioned term. OBE was around during the 60s, early 70s. Nowadays, most people refer to out-of-body experience as OBE. So who's who in OBE research and what have they discovered? This is a good friend, Carlos Alvarado. He's carried out a great many surveys and investigations into the out-of-the-body experience. His writings can be seen in scientific journals. And what he's contributed to the field is that this is a very real phenomenon, that many people experience it, and it can be documented and researched. It's not a taboo topic. Susan Blackmore from my hometown, she had had an OBE many, many years ago and has been trying to find out how she can have more OBEs. And she's now come to the conclusion that there's nothing leaves the body in an OBE, but that it's something that occurs within the mind, that it's very much a monist experience. Susan Blackmore again, she says that to say you've actually had an OBE, there has to be vivid and detailed imagery. The memories and images have to seem to be real. There's reduced bodily sensory input, but there's a maintenance of awareness and logical thinking during an OBE. Celia Green has written a great deal about OBEs. She's located in Oxford, England, and she has a Society for Psychical Research, and said that between 70 and 80% of single-case OBEers had seen their own body during the OBE. Many of them had felt that they possessed a second conscious body, but only 10% saw the silver cord that's supposed to connect the two bodies. So she has also done a great deal of research on the actual numbers of people that have had OBEs. Jack Houck found that there were actually brain measurements that could be made, and he found that when he was measuring folks who had OBEs, remote viewing, that their brain tended to measure in the 7.81 to 7.83 hertz range, which is incidentally the same frequency range as the Earth's magnetic field, known as the Schumann resonance. So perhaps OBEers are tapping into something, some Earth resonance, to be able to travel. And that's something that we need to research in the future. Jack Houck again, he learned some of his ideas from Dr. Bob Beck. And what he learned from Beck was that if you put headphones on somebody and you have in one ear a 7.81 hertz sound, the brain hears it, follows that beat, and that beat can be measured, which is then that beat is put back into the other ear. So people are getting a binaural 7.81 hertz from an outside source, excuse me, and an inside source. And he found that 45 out of 45 people who tried this, about half reported a full or partial out-of-body experience. So that's something else that could be interesting to follow up. There's, he calls this the MAW, or mental access window range, which is an interesting discovery. Stephen LaBerge is known more for his lucid dreaming research, but he's also studied OBEs, and in fact, he says it's more likely to occur when you're falling asleep and waking up in the morning, when you're on that verge of waking and sleeping. Robert Monroe, of course, we know from the Monroe Institute, and devised methods to go out of body by playing different tones into each ear to enable the brain to create another tone that where individual can then go out of body. It's they do a lot of work, not just into OBE, but into other altered states of consciousness. Keith Harari was a natural OBEer, and he was studied by Robert Morris, and he was able to go and out of body to animals, pets, and a snake in a cage that was supposedly were able to detect where he was and what he was doing, moving around in the snake's cage. The snake would actually follow him and make lunging movements at the point where he said he was in the cage. And with two kittens, the one kitten out of a pair that he had befriended seemed to respond more to him when he was out of body and visiting. And these were actually research projects. Carlos Otis at the ASPR in New York did a lot of research on OBEs, developed very ingenious research. He had tubes suspended in the lab and with items and what you call them, audio-visual aids suspended in them that could only be seen in their entirety to make sense by looking at them through the end of the device. And he found that when people went out of body, they could look with their mental eye through that aperture and report what they were seeing and could see the actual trail of what was being put into the tube. And of course, I'm going over these pretty quickly. There's a lot of research material out there that if anyone's really interested, they can go out and read about this in a lot more depth than I'm covering today. Dr. John Palmer also did a great deal of research on about how many people went out of body. He looked at factors such as sex, age, race, birth order, etc. And so he found that there was a significant relationship between having OBEs, past meditative experience, and having other mystical experiences, which sort of common sense. But he was able to document that and quantify it. Again, he was able to identify 100 people who had OBEs, and many of them had seen their body from outside. 30 reported traveling in the OBE state. And a lot of them reported having ESP-type experiences while out of body. Dr. Kenneth Ring, again, he was researching near-death experiences, but also found that an OBE is often an integral part of the near-death experience, and he was fully convinced of the reality of OBEs and felt they were part of a continuum of consciousness. Dean Shields was an anthropologist who looked at 60 different cultures from all over the world and found that a great many of them mentioned of OBEs. Some said there were only certain people that could have them. Others said that everybody could achieve them. And his work was important because he was looking at this from an anthropological, intercultural belief, and found some interesting findings. And again, that research is out there if you want to go and take a further look. Ingo Swan, father of remote viewing, he'd written that he was always aware that his spirit was not confined to his physical body, and he suggests that mental travel is merely an extension through time and space of individual consciousness. And he says that to have an OBE is not a special talent, but a natural function of human consciousness. Alex Tanis was another psychic that was studied at the ASPR in New York, and he was able to initiate voluntary OBEs to locate target rooms. Some people saw him there as a ball of light, which was documented, and he was also able to manifest as flashes of light, which were recorded and reported by researchers at the ASPR. Charles Tart did some innovative research with a woman that he called Miss Z, and also with Robert Monroe. And what Tart did was, during sleep, he measured physiological measures in the individuals, and then put numbers and letters up on a shelf, and found that there was always a success, but I think I've got the next slide where it says, I don't have that in, but Miss C was able to correctly identify a series of numbers that was placed up on the shelf. And a lot of this research now is out there, but is very much forgotten and not given the validity or the importance that it deserves. So some OBE exercises. I have something I call the Harmony of Opposites exercise, where you can sit down quietly in a warm, quiet place and completely relax the body, focus the mind, keep the mind alert, do some mental exercises, some visualization, and then just say, when you feel you're in that dissociative state between sleeping and waking, say, I want to go to, and imagine yourself there, and start walking around, moving around the location. A little bit like going OBE or bilocating during remote viewing. And then come back, report what you've seen, write it down, and then try and verify what you saw. Extended remote viewing is very good for going out of body in an altered state. Everybody does this a little differently, so I'm not going to go too much into ERV. I've done another talk on this topic. The Christos experience, it's not a Christian method. This was developed by Glaskin, who was an Australian journalist, and he wanted to put together all of the positive circumstances that people had found throughout history and in all cultures and religions to enable somebody to go out of body. And he developed something called the Christos experience, which you can find on the internet, and it can either be done with a group of people or solo. And I can attest that it really does help somebody go out of body and visit the past or the future. And the past is easier to verify, of course. Meditation method, sonic driving. Meditation method is basically during yoga exercises, meditation. A lot of people report that they go out of body, but they're not quite sure what it is. They say, well, I was at another location, felt like I was moving around, walking around, and came back to my body. That wasn't OBE. Sonic driving, there's a way to produce a rhythmic sound with drumming or with musical bowls, and this actually enables somebody to go out of body. I did this with Ruth Inga Hines at Saybrook Institute, and she had a small copper bowl that she walked around producing a rhythmic sound as we were lying on the ground. And I'm always a little skeptical because I put my scientist hat on and I go, okay, I don't think anything's going to happen here. Nothing much happened for a while. And then I was flying. I was an eagle. I really felt that I was in the body of an eagle and flew around, landed on a branch, ruffled my feathers, and it was an amazing experience, and then came back to the body. So I can attest that sonic driving works. Okay, I think we've got to the end here. Okay, so there are many ways I would recommend you going looking at the Christos experience, the harmony of opposites exercise, which I have in remote perceptions, and there are several other exercises in there. Sonic driving, go look up sonic driving, try it with in a meditation group. A lot of these exercises will enable you to go out of body. I think that concludes my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Angela. And let me see if I can give some mics to some folks. We'll see. Let those questions begin. There we go. We have almost enough mics for everyone. Do you mind? I'm going to go ahead and disconnect your presentation just for, in case maybe it's slowing things down. I'm not sure. So,
sure.
Will you need your slides for anything, do you think?
No.
Okay. Okay, and we'll just go back to the original there. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Your mics are enabled, all except for one person. And if you would like to speak, we can pass them around. There is one thing, well, if people don't want to talk, then you can text. One person said they had some difficulty hearing. I should have made a note of the question I was going to ask too, darn it. With something. And And it looked like someone was typing in for just a moment there. The Q&A box was lighting up, but it doesn't do anything until a complete question is responded to in there.
Should I bring that box up, or will it come up automatically?
It will come up automatically when there's something fully in it. Marianne, I am so sorry that you couldn't hear. I did have WebEx on the line just because they said that they were going to be doing some maintenance work during this time, but everything will be directed to, a different area. I can't speak to exact IT language, but
it looks like some people could hear well.
Yes. And you said that you've been doing this since you were a child, Angela. When did you first notice that you could or did, or then did it purposefully? Or?
I think around the first ones that I can remember were around about 7, 8 years old. And I'd be put to bed, and I knew that these OBEs were very different from dreams because I was awake, and I'd be bored in bed, and I'd go, okay, I'm going to go sit up on the roof. And go up on the roof, and then I'd fly around the neighborhood and go visit my grandmother's house. So pretty early on in childhood.
Really? Did it make you nervous?
No, because I thought everybody could do this. I thought it was like dreams. People didn't always talk about dreams. Or they talked about dreams as very normal. Well, I thought, well, I know what dreams are. Maybe people don't talk about these other experiences, but I thought they were very normal, and I still think they're very normal.
Okay, Crowley, I gave you a mic if you want to go ahead and ask your question. Oh, I think I have to make her panelist. Sorry, just a second. If you have a mic, you need to be a panelist. Okay, getting changed over. Provy? Oh, there we go. When I have my OBE awareness, my awareness is not separate from myself. I strongly feel, because I don't believe in being separated, that I don't experience it. Do you feel that our paradigms are influence the caliber of the OBE experience?
Yes, I think our belief systems very much affect our metaphysical experiences, such as out-of-body experience. And, for example, I have a friend who, when she was a child, she could have OBEs, but then when she took some metaphysical training with I call him a guru, who told them that these were not real experiences, that they were all in the mind, and they should concentrate on bettering themselves as people rather than going flying off. She never had another OBE, and she regretted this because this had changed her belief system about what she could do. Not sure if that answers the question.
Waiting to see if she has any response. Croby, did that answer your question? Has anyone else here actually had an OBE? I think I still am not sure. if I had a lucid dream or if it was an OBE. But here's someone saying when she was a child, I used to walk through walls and describe what I saw on the other side. She was told she was possessed.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my.
Funny. Yeah, it's funny how people put different interpretations onto these experiences. Sounds like she had very definite OBEs, and many children have OBEs, and then they're told it's all imagination or of the devil or it's not real, and so they either don't talk about them or suppress them.
She didn't buy that, but she had to keep her mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said 1 in 20 individuals experience at least one, if not more, OBEs during their lifetime. Do you think, are they just afraid to talk about them, or are there groups, unless you were associating with a particular group, you just need to know where the groups are, sort of like a little underground?
Well, the 1 in 20 was from surveys of regular folk, and probably that probably is the tip of the iceberg, because those are the people who were willing to admit that they've had an OBE.
Mm-hmm.
There are not really groups around, as far as I know, specifically to discuss or explore OBEs. In England, when I was in the sort of the 1970s, early 1980s, there were groups around, particularly in Europe. But over here, there do not seem to be groups specifically for exploring OBEs. So most people don't even know what they're experiencing.
Yeah. Do you think, I know what my question was, you said something along the lines, in control remote viewing, when you're having perfect site integration, when you become aware of it, all of a sudden it just ends. Is this anything similar?
I think my feeling is that when a viewer bilocates during a remote viewing session or achieves what Lynn calls perfect site integration, they're out of body. And I know Lynn says that he doesn't always let people proceed along that line because they stop reporting what they're perceiving. So the data stops. But if the individual can continue reporting what they're seeing and feeling and doing, then I don't see any reason why somebody can't bilocate during a remote viewing session.
And then we had a question. I used to, when I was 5, I would get up, go to the bathroom, sit on the toilet, feel the cold seat, allow myself. Okay. I'm trying to figure out the question. It seems person may have had an out-of-body experience and then woke up in the bathroom. Maybe we'll get some more typing and clarify that when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm. There is such a thing as a false awakening, but this sounds a little different. That they were actually out of body, but then I don't know. Because if you're actually there in the bathroom, it's not an OBE.
Yeah.
Is it?
I see. It was so real that she was in bed and she thought she was on the toilet. It was a very real experience.
Yeah. That could have been a dream state. It might have been a bilocation. The body needed to go to the bathroom, so it was a jolt, to wake you up and actually go. So if you really felt that you were there, physically there, with all of the sensations, it probably was an OBE.
I see.
Or it could have been just a dream.
Yeah. Tamara, you can text into the chat area. It doesn't really matter. It's actually easier than the question and answer one.
Speaking would be easiest.
Yeah.
The only thing I put into question and answer was, is there a cue to ask a question on the mic?
Actually, you can just go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I've never really used the term OBE. I've heard it quite a lot, but watching your presentation, certainly I've had them. But I wanted to ask your perspective or insight on something that it's happened a lot over my life, where people will claim to experience me being with them in a time of crisis, and I'm not aware of that. I'm going about doing my thing. You know, the interesting kind of caught my attention in that way with bringing that up. I mean, I'm not a saint, I'm a person, but I've just looked at that as connections and consciousness. Now, that happens to you too. On the flip side, there's been countless times I've been wakened from a dead sleep and logged on to find someone in crisis trying to reach me on the internet. And it's like they wake me up. That's easier for me to understand, that, you know, when someone's calling out inside, I would respond, because I understand my nature is kind of like that. But the other thing where people experience me, it's hard for me to believe they're actually experiencing me more than they're experiencing a perception or some part of themselves that they're projecting onto me. And certainly open to being wrong, which is why I'm asking, have you heard of that, and what's your take on it? Thanks, Angela.
Okay. Hi, Tom. I've heard of a similar phenomena called doppelganger phenomena, where an individual's double is seen and perceived, can even talk to, without the individual being aware that somebody else perceives them at a different location. How that happens or why it happens, I honestly don't know. But it has been documented, and it is a real phenomenon that's been written about. So you might want to read up on doppelgangers.
Maybe for anyone else who's here, and Angela, the once or twice I thought I spontaneously might have had an out-of-body experience versus lucid dreaming. Do you experience like this profound feeling of tiredness, or like you're walking through water, or anything like that with this?
For me, I experience that sometimes when I return, feeling of lethargy. But when I'm actually doing the OBE, because I do a lot of them not spontaneous, you know, they're more deliberate. For me, it's going through the paces, and then it's like a light switch, I'm there. And I really don't have that experience of tiredness or as an effort. It's usually, you know, quite easy. I can dip around different locations, as if, you know, when you're doing remote viewing, if your monitor says go underground or go aerially, you're there. And so for me, it's a very normal thing. It's not quite the same as physically going around a building or physically seeing something, but pretty close. And I don't really have the tiredness or the lethargy that you're talking about.
Okay, because the once or twice when this did happen is like, what was that? I didn't plan it. You know, if it's going to happen, I'd kind of like to know about it. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of the reasons I am here today, because you're just doing your normal life stuff, and all of a sudden, like, what was that?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so many times the only way that's how books get written. You get enough people together. That's how we learned how to remove an appendix that has become inflamed. You know, enough people had bad outcomes with pain in the lower right quadrant of their abdomen, and we studied them, and eventually we learned that that little thing called the appendix is there. But until we had enough people to study and compare and, you know, all of that, we didn't learn about it. So I think this is just my perspective of just another aspect of us that we need to get groups of us to describe and see if we can come up with some commonalities and help figure this out. Because there's no, it's not bad. People are doing it all the time. People are out there doing it on purpose. And so, you know, I am not one to run and hide from things like this anymore. Doesn't mean I have to go out and do it every 5 minutes, but it's like, this exists. Running from something doesn't make it go away. It doesn't mean it's bad. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for helping.
Oh, you're welcome. And this OBEs don't fit into our cultural mindset. You know, they're kind of taboo still. And for the last 150 years, they've really been pushed under the carpet. Because at the turn of the last century, they really were accepted as valid and researchable. Then the behaviorists came in. Yeah.
Well, as you said, all the different cultures you named, you know, a good dozen, it looked like, that are familiar with them. And I was sitting here thinking, you know, if we could toss out some ideas, what would they be, just besides us exploring and wanting to go someplace and check it out or whatever, you know, it could be very useful if we had reasons to go study something, you know, for useful reasons, whether or not it be weather-related or catastrophe-related. Maybe in a few years when we are a little more open-minded, you know, could possibly be an actual means of gathering information in a useful way instead of being hidden.
Right. Well, it can be. For example, during the Haitian earthquake, there were 2 men missing in the Hotel Coronado, and a group of us remote viewers were tasked to go and find them and to report on them, and actually they passed away. But I went out of body. I used the out of body state to go and take a look and they would describe what had happened to the 2 men. And they actually were, when they did some excavations, they did find the bodies and exposure to the family. But OBEs can be used for a multiple array of different.
You know, you just reminded me, Teresa, it's been some years back now, but I was in the hospital and I had the strangest sleep. I was reading all about a disease. I'd never heard of it. You know, I wasn't even that old, and I was just reading and studying. I just knew all about it when I woke up. And when I mentioned it to the nurse, I woke up, you know, groggy and just feeling strange. She had been studying on the night shift just what I had been reading. I don't know if I was reading over her shoulder or what was going on, but really freaked her out. And you know, I guess that was OBE. So we can probably learn a lot doing stuff like that. But I mean, I didn't deliberately do it. I wouldn't know how to do it again, but it can happen.
Yeah, sounds a little bit like telepathy too. There's telepathy in there.
I'm experiencing that more and more. All of a sudden when I'm doing something, it's there the person is on the phone or texting, or it's like, you know, why am I not surprised?
Yeah.
Well, folks, we are going on 10:43 Eastern Time, and I again apologize. We seem to have had some technical difficulties with Angela's presentation. Certainly not with Angela. She knows her stuff, and she was well prepared. But do we have any more questions? Scrolling down here. I think we've got a lot of stuff hit the text box here. I attend workshops. I can't get there physically. I missed out on this text, evidently. I appreciate utilizing protocol of remote viewing to offer me a discipline that allows the altered states I easily enter to be more focused. Yeah, I happen to know that Provi bilocates when she blinks. She's extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
And she says she's discovered when she's in an OBE, she can see energetic attachments clearly on a person or place. I'm training my OBE eyes to see when I'm not in an OBE. I get a strong sense of what I see energetically.
Mm-hmm. We're much more than just the physical body, Robert Monroe said.
Yeah. And we do have several statements, people saying thank you very much. They've enjoyed being here with you this evening.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm sorry we had some sound difficulties in the beginning. That resolved.
Me too, for the most part. I hope our recording comes out fairly decently. So, okay, well, I do think we're winding down here. And I thank everyone for coming. Angela, thank you so much for spending time with us and sticking with us as we troubleshoot it, withdraw our troubleshooting. So,
thank you, Teresa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Participating.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. It'll take me just a moment to turn off the recording and everything, but I think we're going to go ahead and go. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.